Good morning, Wunder.
Morning.
Okay, guys, who had a wonderful night's sleep last night? Yeah. I woke up this morning and the Wunderkind team put me in a room overlooking Lake Travis, and the sun was shining, and I took a deep breath, and I was like, whoa, I needed this, and I think we all needed this because marketing hasn't had an easy year this year. Feels like a constant annual thing that we say at this point, but it's been a year of change. It's been a year of adaptation, and some of those changes have felt a little bit radical, right? We have, let's see, what do we have? Profitability, the chase for profitability, right? This is a year of AI. We had a really good conversation about that yesterday. We are facing rising acquisition costs. We were talking about that with a few folks last night. Budgets are shrinking, expectations are ballooning, right? What are we to make of all of this? And that is what our amazing panel of experts are here to talk to us about today. And before we get started, let's actually do some introductions. So would love to hear from you guys, and maybe a little bit of a journey with how you got to your role today. And let's start with Ben.
Sure. So Ben Harris, Chief Commercial Officer for Rag & Bone. Been with Rag & Bone for about 5 years. Previous to Rag & Bone, always been in the fashion industry, lifestyle apparel brands, John Varvatos, Ralph Lauren, mainly founder-led brands. I come from a store background, so I spent most of my career working in retail stores. I was a salesperson, a stock person, a regional manager, did all of the jobs that you could do in a retail store, and learned digital a little bit later on in my career. So I think it's given me sort of a unique perspective on the digital landscape, marketing landscape. I'm not a CMO, full disclosure. I'm a CCO that runs marketing. So I think it also sort of puts me in a unique position when it comes to looking at how we sort of run our marketing strategy.
Awesome. Excited to get your expertise here. And Jay.
Very good. Maddie told me this is a fantasy football panel. Is that the case?
In that case, I'm the wrong
I had
moderator.
a really good draft this weekend.
I can't participate either.
Yeah.
I can talk marketing too, though. So, Jay Nigrelli, I'm the SVP of eCommerce for Panelists International. We have a portfolio of brands including Panelists, Original Penguin, Cuba Vera. We license Callaway Golf Apparel, PGA Tour, and Raffaello. And I have been overseeing direct-to-consumer e-commerce for over 15 years now. Started out as a direct marketer, like many people my age now, with catalog circulation, and then kind of evolved into e-commerce as e-commerce grew. In my role, I oversee platform, performance marketing, third-party tech stack, and customer service, online merchandising as well. So kind of a good perspective of everything. Work very closely with brand marketing. Clearly we have to work effectively together across the funnel.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay. And Richard, last but not least.
My journey to being the CRO of Wunderkind came through kind of entrepreneurial route. So I did a startup building a SaaS platform that was helping brands build Facebook apps and generate likes, and then Mark Zuckerberg went and shut all that down, switched Facebook to an ad platform, and then I spent a decade repivoting the business to build sweepstakes and quizzes and various other data capture capabilities that brands could deploy on their website. Sold that to Cheetah Digital, spent 3.5 years there as CMO, and then joined Wunderkind.
Awesome. Well, brand side perspectives with folks who kind of run a lot of different parts of the show, and then Richard, your experience with Wunderkind and technology and all the changes and evolutions of marketing as well. So super exciting. Let me introduce myself as well. My name is Jane. I am representing Industry Dive today. We are industry-focused news business. We send, I think most of you, some of you, daily newsletters, Retail Dive, Grocery Dive, Food Dive, C-Store Dive, Fashion Dive. Our audience is over 14 mil at this point across our 38 different publications, and over 1 mil for folks that are related to retail. I've spent the last 10 years building our marketing services advisory, our content studio. So I'm on the dark side. I work to turn a lot of the expertise that we have at Industry Dive about these niche audiences to insights that we can use as brands to do more effective marketing. And we've been so excited to partner with Wunderkind on the State of the Union here, and let's get into it and share some insights and get some perspectives here. All right, let's talk, let's have the annual conversation about changing consumer expectations here. This year, respondents told us that 60% of respondents said that changing consumer expectations is still their biggest concern. And Ben, I want to start with you here. At Rag & Bone, what are you seeing in terms of changing consumer expectations? And maybe share some insights with the audience on tactics that you guys are using to actually deal with that.
Yeah, sure. So at Rag & Bone, we have an e-commerce business, of course, but then we also have a retail store business. We've got 40 retail stores, one here in Austin, actually, on South Congress. You get a chance to check it out. Shameless plug. So it's been really interesting, of course, over the last 3-4 years to see what's happened, because of course during COVID, retail store business went to basically zero, and everybody shifted to e-com. When that happened, we saw an explosion in terms of revenue, investment, and technology. All of our focus and attention really shifted to our e-commerce business, and it sort of rolled that way for a long time. And in retail stores, we were just focused on opening, closing the doors, keeping the lights on. But really, in the last year, retail stores have exploded. And what we've seen is a tightening of spend on e-com with the customer. So the customer is way more value-driven, way more discount-sensitive than they ever have been on e-commerce. But it's sort of the opposite in retail stores, where our customer shopping in retail stores is really driven by emotion and impulse and sort of this longing for social interaction that results somehow in a sale. So in retail stores, we've seen really high AOVs, really good customer retention. It's our #1 acquisition channel right now, retail stores, over e-com, if you can believe it. Where in e-com, we're much more focused on customer retention and re-engagement. So we're putting a lot of resource and energy into retail stores as acquisition and marketing vehicles. And we're way more focused in e-com about how we sort of retain and focus sort of in the lower part of the funnel, but then gain some good insights about how we acquire customers on e-com. So we've sort of shifted our focus pretty dramatically from e-com to retail stores in the last 18 months or so.
Wow, I mean, it's a little bit of a game of ping pong, right, over the last 3-4 years.
Sure.
What's in 2024? And what do you think?
I mean, we'll have that conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Jay, what about you? What are you seeing at Ellis?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a customer focus and expectation on value, and it's we're partly to blame for it. Last year with supply chain, we couldn't keep product in stock. We couldn't get product in stock, and so this year, going into this year, our buyers bought very aggressively, like many retailers, and I think it ended up being a surplus in inventory across the board with our competitors and ourselves. And so we have high weeks of supply. You've got to sell through. We kind of train the customer on discount, and then that in turn turns into lower margins, which obviously none of us want. So how do we have a P&L. I manage P&L. I need to hit a certain EBITDA rate. So you have to look at other areas when your gross margin's lower to to hit that EBITDA. And so we focused a lot on optimization of operations. We've looked at things like and executed things like ship to third-party locations like Walgreens, UPS store. We get rid of the residential surcharge, so that saves us a couple points there. We're moving 3PL to a more cost-effective 3PL. So those are the types of actions that we have to take to make sure we stay profitable.
Mm-hmm. Makes a lot of sense. And Richard, you have a unique perspective across the landscape here. What do you think about this?
Interestingly, what you were saying about the value-conscious consumer, we did some consumer research recently, and 57% of consumers were saying they were more likely in the coming year to compare prices, look for deals. And I think heading into 2024, I think inflation will probably stay stubbornly high in a lot of markets. And so I think the consumer looking for value is going to continue. I would say that, further out than that, I think we have now just embarked in a landscape with the largest deflationary pressure the world has ever seen, which is AI. The cost of goods and services when advancements in science happen tend to go down. I mean, the cost of a TV has gone down by 98% since 1997, so it will be temporary. But this time last year at Wunder, what we heard from many of our customers was, look, it is a tighter economy. We are under a bit more pressure looking for profitable growth. You're great at acquisition and conversion, but how can you actually help us across the customer lifecycle? So one of the things we've been developing over the last year is our loyalty module, so that we can basically help customers not just build their sign-ups for email lists, but actually also drive sign-ups for their loyalty programs, where that search for value and for rewards and discounts can often be delivered through loyalty programs. And then we can use that loyalty data to also further personalize the triggered email messages. So some of the things we've been up to.
Absolutely. It's something we're hearing a lot across our clients as well, this focus on loyalty and retention more than anything this year. So lots of different pressures and different changes. Question for you guys. I mean, every year, so many things need to change about our business in order for us to kind of stay ahead. What makes your team capable of that change? Like, sorry, not a planned question. I'm just curious.
No,
right?
I mean, sometimes we're not.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I think we're trying to react to the external pressures, and I think, of course, the team is everything, and we can have the best technology. We've seen that. We've invested in incredible technology, but if you don't have an adoption from the team, if you don't have the right experience and skill within your team, it doesn't do what you need it to do. It doesn't live up to its promise. So we've had some of that. We've installed technology, and then certain key members of the team have left or moved on, and then new team members come on, and they're not really bought into the technology as much. And so we've suffered from some of those challenges over the last few years, and I think it's a constant challenge, sort of how you pivot, how you make sure that you can stay ahead of the curve, especially as things change so dramatically. The environment is so dynamic.
Yeah, the technology powering the agility that we need as organizations frame. Okay, thanks. Let's keep going and talk a little bit about the years-long slow death of the cookie. But specifically wanted to get some brand insights. What are we doing, Jay, at Ellis, to combat this, to kind of change our approach, given that the third-party cookie is on its way out?
Yeah, I think first-party data is so critical now, and will just continue to be more and more critical. We've seen over the past couple of years a shift in return from social to search, and part of that is because of the lack of first-party data that's feeding the model. And at the end of the day, companies like Wunderkind will increase will increase the customer experience, will increase the conversion rate. And conversion rate and average order value, lower funnel, are critical because it really is going to increase your ROAS across any marketing channel that you use. And if you want to grow, you need to increase the conversion rate because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If conversion rate goes down or average order value go down, your ROAS goes down, and when your ROAS goes down, you have a target, your spend goes down, and so you really have to find ways to elevate the customer experience to improve conversion rate. And Wunderkind does a great job of that. Did I say that correctly?
And you've just paid for your time.
I'll get the wallets out later.
Jay actually let me know yesterday that he is a Wunder lifer. He has been at this event for 6 years, so brand loyalty.
Yeah, 7 years you get a golden pen. So.
Do I get to pick next year where we're going?
Yeah, you get to pick where we're going.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Ben, how are you guys dealing with this?
I mean, a lot of the same stuff that Jay said. Whenever the environment gets tight, it always makes sense to sort of push all of your effort further down the funnel, focus on the conversion rate. We've also invested into search, but we're also getting, I would say, smarter about how we're measuring our efficacy of marketing. So we found that we've done, ourselves a disservice by really just focusing on like a 14-day look-back window, last click ROAS. And that's like a really rigorous sort of imperfect measure, especially as you put a lot of attention and focus further down the funnel because there's intent there anyway.
Right.
So we've actually sort of moved to more of incrementality testing. We've onboarded a new platform that's helping us sort of figure that out called Measured. We're moving to a lifetime value model rather than a last click ROAS. So it's taking some retraining, especially with the CFO, isn't quite familiar with all those KPIs. So it's definitely a little bit of an education moving forward, but we're trying to figure out the right mix with a new set of KPIs to be able to sort of run a full funnel marketing strategy in the most effective way possible and not waste our dollars further down the funnel when there's intent there anyway.
Yeah, I would say attribution's never perfect, right? So we like to look at first click and last click, and the answer is somewhere in the middle. That's really my approach to it. You got to be consistent too.
So none of us know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
No, we don't.
And Jay, you mentioned kind of the first-party data strategy at Ellis, and I think that's a kind of ongoing conversation for this conference as well. And our respondents, there's a little bit of a juxtaposition here. Folks know that having a really strong first-party data strategy is important, but it doesn't seem like every single company really has that on lock yet. So wondering if, and maybe Richard, we can start with you here. What's the right approach here? Any insights to share with folks here?
Yeah, I feel like I'm in a Back to the Future movie. When Zuckerberg, totally messed up my startup, shutting down, the Facebook page. I'll never forgive him for that. You kind of repivot. We go, right, we're gonna help brands build their own database of their own customers and learn lots of information about them. The whole kind of zero-party data thing. Ask loads of questions, build out those data points, and then use that for more efficient communication. But it was almost like running against the tide because I remember thinking, I don't even know whether we can actually make this work because I was having senior level conversations with customers. I remember going and seeing an SVP of Unilever, talking to them about everything our platform does and all the data it can capture. She looked me straight in the eye and she said, look, this is redundant tech. I don't need this. Facebook and its coterie of third-party data providers can give me everything I need to know about a consumer. I can micro-target down to the nth degree. Why do I need to know who my customers are? And you're like, what? Whereas the laws of gravity of marketing, are they upside down? So it's great to see that kind of coming back into play. And I welcome some of the pressures around privacy to sort of enter that in this world again. But I think in terms of kind of Wunderkind, it's we continue to invest in our ID tech. The more of the site visitors that are identified, the bigger your reach is. And if through our email and text capture technologies, if we can capture as much of those site visitors into your kind of opted-in email lists and understand better what they do, triggered messages can drive them into converted customers quicker, and that means you're not so reliant on the second, third, fourth ad to drive them back to the site to convert. So we'll continue to double down on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you call her like, told you so? No?
No.
And Ben, what about you guys? Are you guys adopting a strong first-party data strategy already? How are you guys on that journey?
Yeah, I mean, like everybody else in the world, we're definitely focused on it. I mentioned earlier, retail stores have actually been a big source of customer acquisition. So we're really focused on capturing customer information in retail stores as well as in e-com. Because the retail stores are so important in that regard. But yeah, we're really leaning on our own channels, utilizing our first-party data to drive a lot of revenue. And of course, now I'll pay for my time here. Wunderkind is helping us with that. But we're focused on it sort of across the entire ecosystem, even when it comes to our wholesale business and dropship. And being able to sort of have a relationship with customers even outside of our direct-to-consumer business, is an opportunity for us when it comes to sort of major department stores. So first-party data and own channels is like priority number one.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. Let's shift to talking about advertising. So respondents are challenged by the efficacy of paid advertising this year, right? A lot of them said that paid advertising channels aren't getting the right returns in terms of customer knowledge, in terms of increasing brand loyalty. And I'm curious, how are you guys seeing advertising? Which channels are working? What are our strengths and weaknesses that we're seeing? And Jay, maybe we can start with you here.
Yeah, sure. Like I mentioned before, we've shifted some of our spend from social to search. Email penetration has increased significantly over the past couple years for us. both behavioral and batch type emails. This year, with being more promotional, unfortunately, our affiliate channel has increased in penetration. I see that coming down over the next couple of years. But just getting back to the first-party data, I think for us, that driving that channel, that first-party data channel, specifically email, SMS, is going to be critical for us. And like Ben and Rag & Bone, we're really pushing hard to collect that first-party data both in store and online. In fact, we're making a change to our email program. When somebody signs up for email, they're automatically going to be logged into our loyalty program. And then we'll tell them a bit more about the program. And we've restructured our program to lower the threshold in terms of getting a reward, because we want to get that frequency.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What are we doing at Rag & Bone? What best performing channels, worst shifts?
Yeah, I mean, best performing channel search. And again, best performing is sort of subjective depending on your KPIs. If we look at LTV and we look at incrementality, it's actually social at the moment that's performing better than search. So we've been really obsessing over what is the right content for the right audiences in the right channels. And what does our customer expect from us as a brand? And how do we make sure that we show up to them in a way that really connects with them emotionally? One of the challenges that we've had is because we're running so many different ad sets in so many different places, it can sort of start to feel a little bit fragmented and a little detached. So we've really been working hard to sort of put all of our content together and make sure that the way that we're showing up across the entire funnel, regardless of where we're showing up, is really cohesive and reflective of the brand, and reflective of the brand in a way that is also reflective of what the customer expects from us. Right. And what they identify with the brand for. So we've really sort of been focused on content matched with audience, matched with brand in a way that sort of all lines up. And it's actually probably the most difficult thing that we've undertaken this past year.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Know your audience, serve them the right content in the right places at the right time. Ben, I wonder, do you have, can you give a specific anecdote or example of how you guys have done that at Rag & Bone?
Yeah, sure. Well, we learned actually that our number one acquisition product for Rag & Bone, can anybody guess what it is? Jeans. Yes, exactly. Number one acquisition product is jeans. Rag & Bone is known for. We have Rag & Bone fans over here. All right, great. So number one acquisition product is jeans. Then we also learned that our number one retention product is a collection of products actually that we call icons, which is like foundational product, really quintessential Rag & Bone, things that wardrobe staples, let's call them. So that's a big retention product for us. So we actually are running denim ads and icons ads specifically against acquisition and retention audiences, but in a way that feels totally connected. So it's not a different look or feel between the denim and the icons. It's sort of one look and feel, but a product-specific ad that's targeted to specific audiences for a specific commercial purpose. And that's worked pretty well for us so far.
Love that. Richard, what's the Wunderkind perspective here on advertising?
Yeah, so aside from kind of helping with e-com brands with the collection of first-party data, which was being used for retargeting, and then supporting and working with people like Trade Desk to support UID too across all of our supply. Ultimately, our perspective on ads is that one of the problems that that's out there in the ad ecosystem is that ads are, on the whole, are fairly disruptive. They're interrupting the consumer in a content experience, and so we've been pioneering our kind of kind ads capability, which is really looking for those moments when consumers are on we've got 200 plus premium publishers. It's on those publisher sites, and they've actually finished, they're disengaged with their content experience, and then we're serving an immersive ad in that moment. And we've got really, really great engagement and attention stats around our ads because we're delivering it in a more respectful way to the consumer. And we see that growing. And Jesse, raise your hand if anyone wants to talk about ads, go chat to Jesse, who runs that for Wunderkind.
Love that. Perfect. Let's shift our attention to, I think, a question that all of us have to deal with on the day-to-day, budgets. what I'm hearing a lot and what our respondents are saying is that we don't have enough budget to do the things that we need to do, or sometimes it's actually hard to get the alignment across C-suite or with our CFO to actually get the right budgets. And want to ask Ben here, what is your advice for folks? Like, how do you justify budget, and what is the right process for kind of looking at budgets for next year?
Sure. I don't know that I have the answer to that.
Fair.
I don't know that there ever feels like there's enough budget. I think it also depends on where you are in your company's life.
Right.
And where Rag & Bone is currently, we're a 20-year-old brand. We've been in the business for a while, probably, we're not in startup mode, we're not in VC mode, we're established. So we care about top line growth, but we also care about profitability. And so that means that we need to balance our investment against our return and make sure that we're always sort of finely calibrating that.
Right.
Like I said at the top of the presentation, I'm a chief commercial officer that does marketing. I'm not a CMO.
Right.
So I might have sort of a unique relationship with the CFO based on that.
Right.
Because I'm also responsible for the commercial results and the P&L. So, for me, I think it's about constantly calibrating top-line expectations against efficiency and profitability, and making sure that you've got your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the business at all times, so you can course correct quickly before it gets away from you.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is your planning cycle like? What does the budget cycle process look like at Rag & Bone?
I mean, we're insane. We do it like every week, every 2 weeks. I mean, we're really close to what's happening in the business. I think some of that comes from the fact that we're a contemporary brand.
Right.
So we're not luxury, we're not, a high street brand, we're sort of in the middle, and it means that there's a lot of sensitivity in our business from competition both below and above us. So we have to be very agile when it comes to budgeting and when it comes to, reading and reacting to our business. So we do it a lot.
Yeah, makes sense.
More frequently than I would advise.
Jay, what about at Ellis? What advice do you have for folks who need to convince their CFOs to kind of loosen the purse strings here?
Yeah, I think you really should be on the same page as your CFO. You should have, based on your maturation as a company, you should have a target cost to sales ratio mix, both brand and performance marketing, that makes sense for where you want to be profitably. And there really shouldn't be a dollar budget. There should be a percent guide. And our jobs as marketers are to how can we find effective marketing and scale that marketing while keeping that ratio in line. And that's how you win.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And same question for you. What does the planning and budgeting cycle look like at Ellis?
Yep, so we start our budgeting in July for the following year. We usually tweak it up until the end of the fiscal year. That gets locked in, and then we're constantly reforecasting throughout the year. Mm-hmm. Try to be as agile as possible.
Yeah, makes sense. Richard, I know we serve marketers here, but what's your perspective on the CFO piece here?
Well, it's kind of interesting because over the last 6 months or so, typically you think in our new sales outreach, we'd just be trying to talk to CMOs, but actually we've started targeting CFOs as well. And the reason why we've started doing that is because we believe that they have an important contribution when you're having a conversation around the efficiency of spend. And so we continually find brands out there that become prospects that are still way over too reliant on spend through Google and Facebook, and the level of spend and the return they're getting through those channels is maybe because it's it's muscle memory, it's the done thing, and they're not necessarily the most optimal spend with the level of spend that they're having on those channels. So we find those brands, and actually the CFO can be a great inroad to having that conversation around efficiency of spend across channels. So it's actually been going pretty well this year.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Although I have to say sometimes some of the best things I've done in my career, I can't imagine having a one-to-one conversation with a CFO to get it improved. I remember being at Cheetah Digital when it was, the brand was a little bit tired of old technology and we couldn't rebrand, and we were middle of COVID. We were having to do a virtual conference, and we were like, right, let's go and spend $50,000 hiring Tommy Lee from Motley Crue, who has got pretty dodgy history and background. We're going to go to his house, middle of COVID, film a bunch of adverts where he's pretending that his rock career is washed up and he wants to be a digital marketer. And then we're going to jump out of a plane after having a conversation with Tommy Lee, get filmed all the way, going down free fall, land in a field, walk over to some desks, and kick off the live conference. It's like, there's no way I could have had that conversation.
Awesome.
We just hit it and did it, and it was great. It really worked.
No, I love it. That's great advice. Hit it and did it. Yeah. Perfect. Really good advice, and I think just kind of seeing those insights on how you plan is helpful for folks as well. Okay, last question here. We had a great conversation yesterday about the balance between performance marketing and brand marketing, and our respondents this year, 44% of them said that they're actually anticipating increases in performance marketing budget last year, which is this year, which is more than any other category that we asked about. So Jay, let's start with you here. What's the distribution of your budgets going to look like for next year? How does performance marketing play into that?
Yeah, I think when times are tough, you're going to shift down funnel, and we probably will be doing the same thing. We're going through budgeting right now, finalizing that, but my expectation is that we're going to keep our ratios the same, and we want to get a little bit more effective with the lower funnel marketing, the performance marketing.
Definitely. And Ben, same question for you.
So we've actually put our performance and our brand marketing budgets together. We sort of squished them together and made it totally fluid throughout. So we're deploying resources against every part of the funnel as necessary. So based on some of the things I was saying earlier, the LTV and the incrementality testing that we're doing that measurement not just in performance marketing, but we're also doing it in brand. So we're looking at the same KPIs across the entire funnel and measuring acquisition just a little bit differently at the top of the funnel. So we're sort of changing our strategy on a week-to-week basis and deploying more or less resources into performance, out of brand, into brand, out of performance, as we sort of see the performance change from week to week. So I think it's going to continue to be super dynamic, and so far we feel pretty good that this was the right move to sort of put all that stuff together and not treat them as separately as we have internally in the past.
Absolutely, and that really aligns with the conversation yesterday about how there's not kind of a mutual exclusivity around those two buckets too, right? Yeah. Thank you for amazing insights here. And this was a great conversation. And thank you to our audience. And special thanks to our Wunderkind team here for throwing a great conference. So grab these guys later, ask some more questions. And thanks, everyone. And we're done.
Thank you.